So I don't know about you, but I think it's time to get this this billet tiled up. So I was trying to debate if I wanted to stack this billet up a little bit, like do a 4-way or a 2-way, just to make it a little bit bigger. And I decided for now I'm just gonna leave it this size right here, and then cut my tiles. Well, first I'll clean it up and then cut the tiles, and if it ends up being too small, then I'm gonna stack it. I was also thinking I might want a little bit tighter pattern in here, but I think this is good. I think it'll turn out nice. And the other thing is, I still, once I get this billet complete, I still have to thin it down and restack it with a core and the brass to make the Gomai pattern. So after all that, it's gonna stretch out quite a bit. So I think we have plenty of material to get our width just in this size as it is. And right now, you know, we're at like 1 1/8. Have to take a little bit off of this, but I think we're gonna be good with this. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up, and then we're gonna mark it to cut our tiles. And once I get it cut, I'll kind of explain. We're gonna do the Ferry flip process to get basically this pattern repeating itself, and so that we can make an entire billet that's large enough for the knife, to make a knife. So I got some of the forge scale off, and now I'm going to run this on the surface grinder just so we can get some nice square corners. Okay, I think we've got 2 nice square sides. I'm not going to worry about the other 2 sides. I think they'll be fine. They're square enough. I just want this thing to stay in the vise nice and perpendicular with the blade, so I wanted a flat top and bottom. So what I need to do is I have to put a mark on this about every 3/4 of an inch. And we're gonna do this at 35 degrees. So what I've done is I put like a little mark right here on my angle. And then I'm just gonna line this up with the edge right here. My little mark, I'm gonna line that up right there. And then I'm gonna just make a line, and then I'm gonna line that mark up to the line I just made. Flip this a little bit so I can get better light. And then make another mark. Line that up with the line I just made, make a mark. Line that up with the next line, make a mark. So you can essentially see what I'm doing here. I'm just lining the mark I made on the angle with the mark I just made on here, and then doing a quick line right here. That way it just, I don't have to go through and mark the billet and then go through and then line it up again. I just have the mark that I can put on there. So we're just gonna cut about half the billet. I'm not entirely sure how many of these I need, but if I have too many, I'll just make 2 mosaic billets, and then I'll save the rest of this for something else at some point. So now what I've got to do is I've got to go put this, oops, I forgot to put a mark at the very end of the billet. Not that it's a big deal, but kind of got to know where to start the cuts. So there we go. So I'm going to put this in the saw, set the saw for 35 degrees, and then just start cutting all these things. And then once I get these all cut, I'll explain how the Ferry flip technique works. All right, we got all these cutting on the trusty new Harbor Freight horizontal bandsaw. Read some reviews on this thing and seemed to be okay, and so far it's working well. So I can't complain too much. I mean, I guess I could complain, but I won't. Yeah, this thing actually came a little banged up. So I went back and talked to them, and they just essentially gave me $300 back and then said, hey, you can just buy the parts, because it's pretty superficial, nothing too major. So 300 bucks off. So here we are back with the stop motion. If you hate these things, just let me know and I'll quit putting them in the videos. But anyway, here we are with all the tiles cut, ready to be aligned and welded. Here we go. Here's all the pieces. I had a little bit of issues with the bandsaw. Had to buy a new blade. So I have a couple of these that I'm kind of worried about, but we're just gonna weld them anyway to see what happens. So I've got all 10 of these pieces, and the next step is we need to do the Ferry flip and then weld these up and get them forged together. So the Ferry flip is, I mean, you can probably read about it. It's some guy with the last name of Ferry supposedly came up with this, but people say there was someone before him that came up with it. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, the whole point of cutting these on the 35-degree angle or 45 or whatever you want to do is I've got, so our pattern is on the end of the billet. So basically this section. And I can show you the first time I actually tried to tile a mosaic was, there's the result right there. So what I did was I actually took and cut these straight like this, and then I turned them on their sides and tried to forge a tall stack like this. It was taller, but I actually had some stuff that stuck, and I made a small knife out of it. Anyway, what happened was when I went to weld this together, the whole billet just bent, and then it just didn't forge weld on the edges and all that stuff. So that's not the way to do it. I mean, you probably can't. Like if I would have taken this and welded all the seams together so there was no oxygen that got in here to forge or form forge scale, it may have worked, but just kind of a pain in the butt way to do it. So this technique right here, you cut the angles, and then what you'll do is, as you can see, this side's cleaned up as well right here, because right now our pattern is on this face right here. So if we take these and we flip this that direction like that, and then take this next one and flip it again and stack it there, flip it and stack it there, flip it and stack it there. I think you get the point. We are going to weld these together right here and then heat it up, and it's going to be, yeah, so you can see this right here, that one's all messed up, so I might just have to get rid of this section. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to heat it up, and then we're going to press down on these, and it's going to press these together and forge weld at that seam, at that junction right there. So yeah, this one's definitely going to be an issue. So you can see that one. That's the one where I had the issue with the bandsaw. So we might just get rid of that one completely and then see what happens. Forge something else, forge a guard or something out of that, who knows. But anyway, so we have to do this with all of them. And so this is way too long for one billet. So we'll probably do maybe 5 of these and then do a second billet. But I think this many right here is going to be plenty to do the knife we're working on. So the next step is we're going to cut out some sheet metal like I've got right here, and we're going to place these on the sheet metal like so. I mean, we're going to get rid of that one. We're going to place these on the sheet metal, and we're going to weld these to the sheet metal on each side. Then we're going to put another piece of sheet metal on the top, and that way it's going to so what we're trying to do is get this so that there's no oxygen. This is going to take place of welding all these top seams. So we'll close that off, and then we'll weld the side seams together so that no oxygen comes in, and then we'll weld the end seams together right here so that this is going to be an oxygen-free environment, and we have a higher chance of getting these forge welds to stick and not have issues. So I'm going to get rid of this guy because it's not going to be used. I'm going to throw these in here. So we're going to do 5 of these, and if I have to do a second billet with these 4 over here, then we can do that. But I really think between this amount of the mosaic and then the layers of the brass and then the core of the 80 CRV2, this is going to be plenty for the, the 3.5-inch knife that we're going to work on. So next step is I have to cut this sheet metal. Okay, so I got these cut. Now I'm really hoping that I can weld well enough to get this thick steel to weld to this thin steel. Okay, so I have these tacked onto this one piece of sheet metal, but now I need to get this other piece on and weld all these seams on this side to keep the oxygen out. So I'm gonna clamp it down in this vise. Then I'm gonna leave it up just high enough so I can actually get to all these pieces to weld them. Okay, here it is. Yes, this is the ugliest welding job ever done by any human on the face of the planet. But I think I got all the holes plugged up. It was difficult to have a light enough power that it wasn't going to burn right through this sheet metal, but also stick to the thicker stuff. So that's why it's really clumpy. I'm definitely not the best welder anyway, but this is bad. But I think I've got it. I guess we'll find out when I weld this up. So it's time to get the forge lit and see if we did this right. Yesterday I did a little bit of work on my forge, patching stuff up. Close the hole up in the back a little bit, so it might burn off a little bit of water that might still be in that refractory. I think this is probably warmed up enough to get this billet started, so slap it in there, get that guy heating up. Yep, we've definitely got some water burning off. You can see the steam coming out of the forge. When I made the little one, it actually had quite a bit of water in there when I started it up, and it was like almost like a steam pipe. It was just blowing out of one section of it. Yeah, I think we're about ready. Heat this up again and do another round. Okay, we'll go for another welding heat here. Okay. I think I'm going to do one more welding heat, and then I'll put the fullering dies on to kind of spread it out a little bit, get some width. Okay, welding heat number 3. Now I'm going to slap the fullering dies on here so that I can grab a little width on this billet. And then we'll work on getting this to a thickness. I'm not gonna go crazy with this. I just want to get a little bit of width is all. And then the rest of the width will come from the flat dies, pushing it all 4 directions. Getting kind of hard to hold on to this because my stick is getting a little warm. Cool this down a bit. Okay, let's see what we can do with this here. Okay, this is going to be the last drawing heat or flattening heat, whatever you want to call it. I think we're at a good thickness on this. Yeah. So you can see we've got plenty of length. I mean, even if we just wanted to do the knife from this and this alone, we have plenty of length for the 3.5. I mean, have plenty of length in this for, you know, an 8-inch, but we're not doing that. All right, so here's where we are at the moment. Got this thing cooled down, it's straight. And we just have to get this steel off of here, this forged scale and this steel off here. So I'm gonna pop this on the surface grinder and get through all this crap, and hopefully we've got some solid welds, and I'll do a test etch to see what we came up with. Okay, get this thing on the surface grinder attachment. Ow. Get. All right. Man, this surface grinder is such a pain. All right. That's just me. I'm just going to complain about the things that make my life easier. gonna put a sharper beld on this. This beld I've got in there is pretty dull. All right, here we go. All right, let's pull this off and cool it down a little bit. I'm sure it's pretty warm. Oh yeah, that's a bit warm. Can't quite tell if I'm through that steel yet. I saw a lot of delaminations that was that actual steel. And now I'm through it, but I see one other little thing here. So I'm gonna give this a couple more passes. And then I think we'll be through all that sheet metal. Okay, I pop the 80 grit on here. So I'll do an 80 grit and then 120 grit. Almost there. Around the 120. So here it is, sanded up to 120. And if we get close, you can see that there are some delaminations in here, like right here, right here. But those are all where the seams were. So I believe, there's one down here. I believe that I've gotten all the sheet metal off, and I don't see a single delamination in here. I mean, I see a little line right here, but it's really hard to tell what that might be. So I'm going to dip this in some ferric, and then I'll bring it right back here, and then we can see what kind of pattern we've got showing. Okay, here we are. Looks fantastic. So I dipped it in the ferric, and I gave it a nice scrub with the steel wool, and here's the pattern we're left with. So, I mean, it's looking pretty good. I see some very small delams on the very edges of where the pattern is, but I'm really not too worried about that because we're gonna have plenty of material here to do with what we're after, maybe even a little bit more. So we'll call this video good. This was my first attempt at tiling this way with the Ferry flip, and I mean, it's a success. It was quite a bit easier than the other ways that I've tried, especially the first way that I tried right here. This was, by the way, this was, I don't know, 4 years ago that I attempted my first mosaic tile, and it was bad news. So it's good to see this technique. Well, obviously it works because plenty of people do it. But anyway, that'll be the end of this video. So the next video, we're going to get the rest of this billet assembled. We'll get the core put in, we'll get the brass shims put in, and then get that all put together, and then we'll start getting a knife made out of this. So as usual, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you in the next video.